everybody is having a great day today as we get prepared for another Shedeur Sanders saga. Now, we know news broke yesterday that Shedeur Sanders was dealing with an oblique injury. Like I said, a lot of people was clueless and pretty much saying that the young man was not hurt. He's hurt, guys. He would not be faking an injury like this. He will not be missing his reps. And for people to even say that narrative is mind-boggling to me. It's what it is. But with all of that being said, we got an update from Kevin Stefanski talking about Shedeur and pretty much the process is going to take for him to get back.
You want to see Shedeur again this weekend, right? I want to see that story. He was making things real interesting there in Cleveland. But man, like oblique injury, I know we've talked a little bit in the past. Oblique injury is tough for a quarterback. It's not the type of thing that you're just going to go, oh, I'll be okay in a few days. I mean, I'd be, of course, there's no way he's playing this weekend, I would think. And then what I would worry about is preseason game number 3, whether he can play then as well, right? And it's an issue. Again, as we talk about throwing the ball, the torque of the up.
The Cleveland Browns front office finds itself in absolute turmoil right now, with whispers echoing through league circles that ownership is deeply frustrated with how Kevin Stefanski handled the Shedeur Sanders injury debacle. Before we dive deeper, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a second of this unfolding QB drama. Stefanski projects calm during press conferences, answering questions in his measured, almost robotic tone. But according to people familiar with what's really happening inside the building, the reality behind closed doors is a complete mess, and what I'm about to break down might shock even the most cynical Browns fan. There's already chatter that a potential coaching shakeup is on the table, one that could ripple throughout the entire NFL, all sparked by how this rookie quarterback's oblique strain was mismanaged. The pressure is building by the day, the fan base is growing increasingly restless, and once ownership begins demanding accountability, history has shown that heads usually roll. What's good, everybody? Your boy is back with another bombshell Browns update, and trust me, this one might be the most explosive yet. Cleveland is teetering on the edge of total meltdown mode. And if you thought the Deshaun Watson saga was chaotic and embarrassing, just wait until you hear what's been brewing behind the curtain between Kevin Stefanski and the Shedeur Sanders injury drama. Stefanski himself admitted that Shedeur first felt something unusual during warm-ups, and then it lingered throughout individual drills. Stefanski explained it like this: if it's a right guard, you can push through that. But when it's a quarterback, you kind of need that muscle to throw. So unfortunately, we'll shut him down for a bit. We'll treat it day to day, monitor how it responds. But we want to be cautious since he's a thrower. At first glance, that may sound measured and reasonable, even smart. After all, no one wants to risk worsening an injury, especially with a rookie quarterback. But when you scratch beneath the surface, the cracks in this explanation become glaring. Here's what no one else seems to be addressing. Browns fans, already at the end of their patience with Stefanski, after a string of questionable decisions, are now demanding his dismissal. Following this injury saga, that clip of Shedeur visibly grimacing and grabbing his side during practice wasn't some minor tweak. It was a young quarterback in real discomfort, fighting through obvious pain. Yet somehow there are still voices doubting the legitimacy of the injury, as if Shedeur is exaggerating. Let me be clear, my insiders are adamant that Browns ownership is furious with how this was allowed to escalate. Think about it for a second. You draft what many believe is a once-in-a-generation quarterback prospect, a player who could finally deliver hope to a tortured fan base that's been craving stability at the position for decades. Optimism was high, excitement was palpable, and then, before the season even begins, your coaching staff fails to properly protect him in a meaningless practice session. That's not simply bad luck or unfortunate timing. That's negligence. That's incompetence from the top down. Stefanski's story doesn't add up. He insists Shedeur noticed something during warm-ups and again during drills. But let's be honest, any coaching staff worth its salt should have had eyes glued to their prized rookie at all times, particularly one with such lofty expectations. Instead, the Browns allowed him to keep practicing until the pain forced him to shut it down. That's not caution, that's recklessness. Stefanski tried to minimize the severity, brushing it off as day-to-day. But here's the reality. Oblique injuries are notoriously tricky for quarterbacks. They don't just vanish in a matter of days. They linger. They sap throwing power. They alter mechanics. And here's the kicker. This isn't some isolated issue. It's becoming a trend. Dillon Gabriel is fighting hamstring problems. Kenny Pickett has also been banged up. Now Shedeur joins the injury list. That's not a coincidence. That's not normal. That's dysfunction. Ownership is connecting the dots, and they don't like the picture they're seeing. Jimmy Haslam didn't invest millions into this quarterback room just to watch his coaching staff mishandle the very players he considers his most valuable assets. What makes it sting even worse is watching other rookies across the league thrive. Caleb Williams is putting on a show in Chicago. Jaden Daniels is flashing playmaking ability in Washington. Meanwhile, the Browns' supposed NFL-ready rookie is stuck in the trainer's room instead of developing on the field. When reporters asked how injuries were affecting the team's ability to evaluate quarterbacks, Stefanski gave a telling answer. He admitted injuries were disrupting progress. But here's the uncomfortable truth, Kevin. Maybe if your staff took better care of these young players, they wouldn't be sidelined so often. Let's zoom out and talk process, because that's where this whole thing really unravels. In modern NFL camps, rookie quarterbacks are supposed to have tightly managed workloads, pitch counts for throws, GPS-monitored movement, soft tissue risk flags, the whole deal. If Shedeur felt something during warm-ups and again through individual periods, that should have triggered an immediate throttle down and a medical evaluation before any 7-on-7 or teamwork. Instead, he kept going until the discomfort became obvious enough to shut it down. That isn't caution. That's a communication failure between the coaching staff and the training room, the kind that turns minor irritation into a lingering problem. When your most precious asset is a rookie quarterback with sky-high expectations, your margin for error is zero. The ripple effects are everywhere. Veteran players notice when protocols aren't airtight. Young receivers need reps with their potential QB1. Those snaps evaporate when the quarterback is sidelined. The evaluation calendar gets warped. Timelines compress, competitions tilt, and coaches start defaulting to the healthy guy instead of the best long-term option. That's how momentum dies. And it's exactly why fans are heated. They watched a preventable situation develop in real time, then heard it described as day-to-day, as if this were a sore thumb. Oblique strains don't just steal velocity, they mess with mechanics, rhythm, and confidence. You can't half throw your way through it. You either heal or you risk compensation injuries elsewhere. Meanwhile, outside the building, the pressure cooker is hissing. Talk radio callers want accountability. Beat writers are parsing every Stefanski sentence for hedges. Social media is a storm of clips, slowed down frames of Shedeur grimacing, and threads accusing the staff of rushing or mismanaging a franchise cornerstone. Fair or not, perception becomes reality when it comes to job security, and right now the perception is brutal. The Browns bought a Ferrari and drove it like a rental. Ownership hears all of it. Jimmy Haslam didn't pour money into a 4-quarterback room to watch Dylan Gabriel wrestle with a hamstring, Kenny Pickett drift in and out, and the most NFL-ready rookie in the class end up stretching with the trainers instead of running the huddle. One injury you can shrug off. 3 at the same position group, that's a pattern. Then there's the Joe Flacco factor, equal parts blessing and indictment. At 40, he is the steady hand, healthy, professional, and capable of running the offense without melting down. But the optics are unforgiving. Your 22-year-old should be absorbing reps in chemistry, while the vet keeps the ship stable, not the other way around. Every day Shedeur sits, the gravitational pull toward a safe, Week 1 starter grows stronger. Not because he isn't talented, but because reps are a currency you can't print in September. And once the staff publicly frames him as day-to-day, they essentially accept a world where the veteran becomes the de facto choice, especially with a front-loaded schedule against punch-you-in-the-mouth defenses. Which brings us to the most maddening part for fans. Shedeur already flashed why this was supposed to be different. That preseason opener against Carolina, efficient, fearless, composed, 14 of 23 for 138 yards and 2 touchdowns, isn't a stat line that wins a Lombardi, but it's exactly the kind of tape that earns trust with teammates and validates months of scouting. Timing on outbreakers, smart pocket movement, red zone poise, he showed it. You can't manufacture that, and you sure don't bottle it up the moment the city starts believing again. Pulling the reins now reads less like prudence and more like institutional anxiety. Inside Berea, the questions getting asked aren't just about pain tolerance or timelines. They're about philosophy. Is this staff wired to develop a franchise quarterback aggressively, yet intelligently? Do they understand how to balance protection with progression? How to use controlled environments to stack confidence without risking the body? Because developing a young quarterback isn't just play calls and whiteboard mastery, it's load management, practice sequencing, and micro adjustments that keep the arm fresh and the core stable. If the Browns can't master that, nothing else matters. And looming over all of it, the calendar. Bengals, Ravens, Lions, Vikings. Those aren't feel-your-way-into-it opponents. Those are measuring stick defenses that punish timing errors and punish compromised mechanics. If Shedeur isn't physically right, you can't throw him to the wolves. But Shedeur Sanders' rise in Cleveland isn't just about flashy throws or one preseason highlight reel. It's about the way he has consistently carried himself with poise and maturity beyond his years. In the locker room, veterans have already started pointing out how he listens more than he talks, how he absorbs advice from seasoned players, and then applies it on the very next drive. That humility, paired with his obvious skill, has become a major talking point. Reporters who initially came to camp just to see what all the Coach Prime hype was about have left with a different perspective. They're now describing Shedeur not as a publicity stunt or media sideshow, but as a serious contender for the future of this franchise. What's fascinating is how quickly the Browns fan base has rallied behind him. Social media is flooded with clips of his pinpoint passes and calm presence in the pocket, and hashtags like #Primetime in Cleveland are starting to trend. Fans who once doubted whether the Sanders name could translate to NFL success are now openly wondering if they might be watching the birth of something special. There's even been talk among analysts that Shedeur's mechanics and football IQ are years ahead of a typical rookie. That's why every rep he gets in practice, every snap he takes in preseason, feels like a small preview of what could be a seismic shift for the Browns' quarterback situation. But with that excitement comes pressure. The NFL is unforgiving. And for every rookie who flashes brilliance early, there are dozens who struggle under the weight of expectations. That's why Nathan Zagura's comments carry so much weight, because he's not just praising Shedeur out of hype, he's recognizing the rare composure and polish that most analysts don't see this early in a player's career. It's the kind of endorsement that makes fans, coaches, and even rival teams sit up and take notice. And if Sanders continues on this trajectory, Cleveland may find themselves with not just a promising quarterback, but the face of their franchise for years to come. If there's one thing we've learned from Shedeur Sanders' debut, it's that he has the it factor. Not just talent, not just mechanics, but presence. The way teammates respond to him, the way he controls the huddle, the way the game seems to slow down when the ball is in his hands, those are things you cannot coach. The Cleveland Browns now face an interesting situation. They already have a proven starter in Deshaun Watson, who the organization invested heavily in. But behind him, they may have stumbled into something extraordinary, a rookie with the skill set, poise, and mindset to become a franchise cornerstone. It's a rare and enviable problem. Too much quarterback talent. What excites the coaching staff isn't just what Shedeur showed in his throws, it's how quickly he processes the field, how effortlessly he makes adjustments, and how calm he remains under pressure. These qualities are the building blocks of a quarterback who can thrive not just in preseason action, but in primetime games against elite defenses. But perhaps the biggest story here isn't about stats, depth charts, or even Shedeur himself. It's about what his rise represents. For years, many dismissed players from HBCUs or programs outside the traditional powerhouses of college football. Shedeur Sanders is flipping that narrative on its head. He's proving that talent shines through no matter where it comes from, and that belief, preparation, and resilience can take you from being overlooked to being the face of an NFL franchise. Coach Prime, watching from the sidelines and cheering from social media, couldn't hide his pride. For him, this is bigger than just football. It's validation. It's proof that his message, that discipline, self-belief, and relentless work ethic can elevate anyone, isn't just motivational talk. It's reality. His son embodies it every time he takes the field. As Brown fans look ahead, one thing is clear. The story of Shedeur Sanders is only just beginning. Whether he becomes the starter this season or spends time learning and developing, his trajectory is pointing straight up. And if his debut taught us anything, it's that Cleveland may be witnessing the birth of a new era. One where a young quarterback with ice in his veins changes the course of the franchise forever. When Herm Edwards called him pretty impressive, it wasn't just a casual compliment. It was a recognition of something real, something rare, something undeniable. And if the Browns nurture it, protect it, and unleash it at the right time, Then years from now, fans might look back at this very moment, at that very debut, and say, this is when it all began. Because sometimes, greatness doesn't wait. Sometimes, it introduces itself in the very first game. So don't skip a single second of this video. And if this story touches your heart, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? Let's begin.